Hi, it's Kathy, dietitian from Highland Primary Care, and we just wanted to do a quick video to tell you all about all the classes that we have to offer in our health improvement program. So just in case you don't know, I'm not sure how you navigated yourself to this video, but Highland Primary Care basically, in a nutshell, is a group of allied health care, so nurses, social workers, myself, the dietitian, and we have a kinesiologist and a pharmacist that works with us. And our job is really just to help support the doctors from Airdrie out to Didsbury. So that's what the Highland Primary Care program is. If you doctor within our boundaries, which is Airdrie out to Didsbury, that your doctor is part of the PCN, and so your doctor's office will have a nurse and a social worker attached, and then the kinesiologist, pharmacist, and myself are available at the central clinic. The health improvement program is one program under Highland Primary Care, and it's basically a group program. So it guides individuals who are ready to take control of their health, improve their quality of life. Usually we function on the premise that a lot of people know what they should be doing, but we just can't quite get there. And through our group programming and some peer support with a little bit of information, it just gives us the help we need to get that next step further. So it's a variety of group classes, very flexible. We run the same classes every month over and over, so you can catch them when you want to or when they'll be meaningful for you. Right now, we're running a combination of in-person and virtual classes, and we'll see how that goes on as we come through COVID here. It seems the virtual seems to have some benefits that we like, and that seem to help people, some people. So we might keep that up. And then you always have the option of touching base with your medical home, as long as you have a medical home in our boundaries, where to touch base with your nurse or your social worker if you need a little bit of one-to-one help. So we do have a YouTube channel with lots of videos on there, and I will kind of mention some or highlight some as we go along. But yeah, check out our YouTube channel, so just Highland PCN, and there are quite a bit of videos there. So see if anything interests you. So I always like in our classes, I often will take a minute to pause and just let people bring to mind what's in it for them. So we know that if people are engaging in a set of healthy behaviors, so healthy eating, active living, absence of tobacco, moderate or absence of alcohol, I'm also going to say sleep and stress, which we're going to talk about in a second. So if we're sleeping good and our stress is well managed, I think that's a really good foundation of health as well to not forget about. We know that if people are engaging in those 4 healthy behaviors, anyways, what the literature talks about, that they have a quality and quantity of life on average every 7 years longer. So I like to cue people just to talk a little, think a little bit, take a second to think about, what do I want to do? What are the things that I love to do and I want to do for 7 years more, and who do I want to be doing them with? And that's sort of the easiest way to get at the what's in it for you, because that'll keep you motivated in the long term. And I was already alluding to this, foundations of health. So the things that I like people just to take a step back, because we often get weighed down with things and we think, I just need to eat better. I just need to do this. I should. We beat ourselves up with that should stick. But we're not taking a look at what are all the things that are going on in our lives right now. How am I sleeping? How much stressors do I have that are coming in? So I just want to take a quick mention of each of those topics, just to give you some time. Really, the best thing I can offer you is some time just to reflect on your own habits, because sometimes we're so busy just surviving the day and getting through and keeping up, trying to do our best, mostly for everyone around us, that we put ourselves on the back burner. So thank you for taking the time just for yourself today to think about what you can do to take care of yourself and to keep yourself healthy and well. And remember what they say on the airplane. So we want to don our own mask before we put on everybody else's. Otherwise, everybody passes out on the seat. And life is a lot like that. If you go down, the people that are relying on you will also go down. So we want to keep ourselves really well, not only just because it's one for ourselves, but for the people around us too. So yeah, I said I'll just take a quick brief mention. So this is our little reflection on sleep here. I don't like to harp too much or stress people out about not sleeping. I know sometimes people are doing all the right things and they just don't sleep good. I know sometimes I do have all the right habits, and like last night I woke up at 3 a.m. and could not get back to sleep, and I tried all the things that usually help me get back to sleep and they just didn't work. But yeah, so sometimes we do all the right things and we just don't sleep good. But and definitely I know, and I'm sure you know, if you've missed a few nights sleep, if we don't sleep good, we know how important it is. It's harder to focus and concentrate, and we tend to be more impulsive and moody. And that reflects in all aspects of our lives, but we definitely notice it with food choices too, right? We're less likely to come home and prep dinner. We're more likely to grab something in a drive-through, and if we're not feeling as energetic as usual. And I mentioned this, sometimes we do all the right things and we just don't sleep. Other times just looking at our sleep habits might be helpful. So this is an area where our classes can come in handy. And this is just an example of something we would talk about in our sleep class. So creating a comfortable sleep environment, having a relax before bed, a bedtime routine. So if you do have small persons in your life, think about the things that you know you do to take care and nurture them. And a lot of those habits are really good for us too. And we wouldn't just pull the kid out of playing and say, okay, go to bed. We usually give them half an hour ahead of time. Oh, okay, it's just about time for bed. What's our normal routine now? Maybe we have a snack. Maybe we have a bath. We brush our teeth. We keep the lights low. We might have a story, that kind of thing. So same thing is good for us, having a regular routine, whatever that routine might be, that just sort of starts to slow things down and quiet the lights down and get your body ready for bed. So just a caution about screens before bed, and I think everybody's on to this. Sometimes we don't even know why we're being told this, but it is the blue light from the screens that is problematic for us. So the blue light blocks melatonin production. We know melatonin is a hormone that makes us sleepy. We get that when we go outside too. So blue light is just like being outside. It stimulates us to be awake. So we want to keep screens away from bed as much as possible. If you're watching something right up till you fall asleep, like some people are falling asleep on the couch in front of their screen, you might want to try to back that off 15-20 minutes and see if that helps your sleep cycles at all. Yeah, caffeine, nicotine, and alcohol. Of course, nicotine and caffeine are stimulants, so that gets our brain wakeful, and alcohol is a sedative. But the problem with alcohol is a lot of people will say they use it as a strategy. Oh, I just have a glass of wine and then I fall right to sleep. And it is true. Alcohol does make us sleepy, but it tends to mimic the effects of sleep without giving us the restorative effects of sleep. And we often will wake in the middle of the night and not be able to get back to sleep. So it really does disturb the sleep cycle. So just a caution about those things. If you're the kind of person who can drink a coffee right before bed and sleep, no problem. If it's not an issue for you, it's not an issue. But if you're finding it is disturbing your sleep cycle, then you may want to just back it off a little bit. Maybe no coffee after 5, for example, or I'm going to switch to decaf after 5. Small changes can make a big difference in these cases. So just a quote that I like, no matter what we're up against, we'll face it so much better with a good night's sleep. And sleep is the golden chain that ties our health and our bodies together. And often we do have the kind of culture that's like, I'll sleep when I'm dead. I can do all these other things first. And I just want to counterbalance that with the message on how important it is, how much more productive we can be when we're functioning on a good night's sleep. So yeah, we do have a 35-minute class on YouTube just with some more sleep habits and strategies, go into that in a little bit more detail, looking at some lifestyle behavior like cognitive thinking strategies, how relaxation can help improve our sleep habits. So like I said, sometimes we can do all the right things and we still don't sleep good, but sometimes there are a few things we can tweak. And often because our culture is kind of sleep when I'm dead kind of culture, there usually is something we can work on here. So we're just going to switch over to stress now, just thinking about stress levels in our lives. Give you a moment to reflect on what is your stress level like right now? How has it been for the last little while? Sometimes we can have periods that are intensely stressful, or maybe there's been like constantly. You just get over one thing and it's the next thing and it's the next thing, or maybe they're all coming at you at once. I think we all know some of the common stresses. So could be financial, could be work stress, could be just the juggle of it all, like families and kids, and trying to juggle aging parents or grandparents with our kids' needs, just juggling a lot of things. And just, do you know when you're stressed? Can you tell early before you blow up at somebody? Do you start to see those little signs? I know for me, my shoulders are always up at my ears. And I know that's a sign that I'm stressed and I'm holding myself in a stressful posture. And I definitely try to make an effort to just take a look at what my shoulders are doing during the day and just roll them back and down. So yeah, just think about some successful strategies you've used, or even that you've seen friends or family use that are successful coping mechanisms. Often I'll say, what do you do for stress? And they say, oh, I eat. So I'm talking about positive things that you do for yourself here. Yeah, one thing we really want to do is reframe how we think about stress in our bodies and in our lives. We do need some stress in our lives. It's necessary. It's adaptive. It helps us rise to challenges and meet obstacles that are coming up to us. So where our body is here, and those stresses is telling us it has to get up to here. What happens in the body is trying to bridge that gap. So that is actually a good thing. We don't want to just stay in one space all the time. We got to grow and change and accomplish new things. So yeah, stress isn't the enemy, but think of it as more of a balance in our body, like sort of like a gas pedal and a brake. But stress hormones secreted in the nighttime is what actually helps us, what wakes us up. So cortisol secreted sometime in the middle of the night, 2 or 3 in the morning, is what helps us wake up in the morning. So without those stress hormones to be the gas pedal a little bit, we might not wake up. Exercise is another great example of how a stress can be really good for the body. So we like to get that heart rate up a little bit, and it's teaching the body how to recover after stress when we exercise. So lots of examples where stress just helps move us forward and be better at being ourselves. Thinking about using stress to help us meet our goals, reframing it a little bit in the way we're thinking about it. Often we do think that something from the outside stresses us out, that XYZ, that person, she stresses us out, he stresses us out, our work stresses us out. Really, those things that we talk about from the outside are actually stressors. So they should be called our stressors. Where the stress is the response that our bodies is making to it. So it's the body's way of reacting to any change it needs to adapt to. So there'll be physical, there'll be mental, sometimes emotional responses. Yeah, so stress when it's in check is really good for us. It helps us meet obstacles and challenges. But if it's unbalanced, if we just keep having a stressful situation and another stressful situation and another stressful situation, and it never comes back down to baseline, that can be detrimental to our health. And just like sleep, I don't like to stress people out about their stress. Sometimes if we can just reframe it, it does make a huge difference. And we can't control what goes on outside of us. All we can control is the response that we have to it. But just to make note that, if the stress is really high for long, we are great at dealing with stress and then recovery. Our bodies are meant for it. We're just really well adapted to having a stressful situation like a car accident and then calming down, and that's not detrimental to our health at all. But if we're at a high level of stress for a long time, then we can see things like we get sick more often. Of course, it can be linked to that higher blood pressure, and I talk about that in a number of different videos, so I won't go into that too much today. But higher cholesterol, higher blood sugars, it's just your body's way of that fight or flight. It wants to fight something off or give you the energy to run away. So it squeezes the blood vessels and it gets trying to get nutrition to those big muscles. So it floods the body with blood sugar, blood cholesterol. Also, bodies under stress tend to store calories. So again, your body wants to fight or fly, either fight or run. And in that's just our primitive brain responding to stress, which is a misalignment with our current stresses, which are largely psychological. But in that case, the body wants to keep extra calories on board in case you have to fight something or fly away again. So that tends to be that is the tendency. Somebody in class will inevitably always bring up that they have a friend who always loses weight because they stop eating, and that can be the case as well. But I would say for the large part of us, we tend the other way to sort of put on a bit more calories when we're under stress. So stressor, I like to give you a few little, I didn't want to just give you information with no things that you can do about it. So some things you can look at a little bit more, try deep breathing. So deep belly breathing, or you could watch 4-7-8 breathing on YouTube. It's not our video, but it's a really great one. Or the heart math video has some really good breathing techniques in it as well. Just taking a deep breath is nice sometimes. So mindfulness, bringing awareness to our thinking. This really is a first step in those cognitive approaches, just noticing where our thoughts are, then maybe even noticing, to take it a step further, noticing, is there any thoughts that I have that are there some that are serving me? Are there some that are not serving me? The ones that aren't serving me, can I start to let them go a little bit, which just leaves some room for good things to come in. So yeah, just bringing some awareness to our thinking. Mindfulness just means paying attention to, on purpose, to what's going on right now in this moment, because we so often as humans are either in the past, and if that brings you wonderful memories, that brings a smile to your face, there's absolutely no problem there. But the tendency is to want to undo things or do them differently, or wonder why they couldn't be a different way. And that can lead us to sadness and even depression. Or conversely, our minds tend to be in the future. And I don't know why it is, but I think it's because our brains are very powerful problem solvers. And when there's no problems there, it just, well, what if this happened? What if this happened? And it tends to be the worst case scenario from our certain set of circumstances. So mindfulness is the opposite of that. It's just paying attention to what's going on right now. So a little tagline I'll use with people is it hurting you right now? It's usually the forecasting. It's like, but what if this happens? And what if this happens? And what if this happens? So mindfulness can just help us pay attention to what's going on. And sometimes we miss some wonderful things that are happening because we're so in the past or in the future. And then on that's a really good segue to meditation or guided meditation. And I almost don't like to use the word meditation because I just think if I say it to 10 different people, 10 different things pop into our heads about what that might look like. So more, I just mean to say, taking some time to just look inside. Sometimes I like to say sitting, but not everybody sits when they take some time to be self-reflective. Some people do better if they're walking and do a bit more of a walking meditation. There are many different ways to touch base with yourself and just ask yourself the question, what do I need to do to take care of myself and just make myself the healthiest version of myself? So what I would like to say about meditation is there's lots of different ways to do it. There's lots of different information and videos out there. I tend towards ones with a little less structure so that people don't think it has to be done this way. There's so many different ways just to touch base with yourself, like I said, and breathing is one of them. So maybe a lot of people just like that idea of the deep breathing because they actually can feel a little bit of release right away. So that might be the way in. And here we do have one in specific called progressive muscle relaxation, and that can be really nice. There's some research specific to progressive muscle relaxation, which is just either starting at the top of your body or at the toes. I tend to like to start at the toes and just contracting and releasing the muscles as you go. So you do your toes and then contract and release, and then you do your toes and your feet and contract and release. Then you do your toes, your feet, your calves, just contraction and release. And there's lots of guided meditations that would walk you through that. But once you do it a few times, you can probably do it on your own. That can be a really nice one to do before sleep. If you're having any trouble sleeping, it just can help us notice if we're carrying any tension in the body. And so we can just release that a little bit and get real comfy where we are. So other ones that are really can have positive benefits for us is just laughter and humor. So if you have a friend that always makes you laugh, or a show or a YouTube video, try not to laugh videos, those kinds of things. just put that on, put your problems down for a little while. There's a story about that. The problem gets heavier the longer you hold it. So put it down for a minute. Sometimes solutions will present themselves. Definitely when we're really stressed about something, we know we lose that ability of the prefrontal cortex, or the problem solving ability of the brain. It kind of goes offline and we get very narrow focused and using that primitive part of the brain that just really wants to get us out of the situation or fight something, which is not the best place to solve problems. So if we can just put it down for a minute, sometimes it'll just be like, oh, okay, it's not as bad as I was thinking, or maybe I'll just do this one thing. Cognitive strategy, so it's a little bit more complex, but in the end, it's just very simple. It's just kind of looking at, often in our human nature is to create a lot of resistance, and something happens and we had no control over. Oh, I wish that didn't happen. I wish this would have happened instead. Creates a ton of resistance and stress inside ourselves. So it's just starting to notice, okay, and we might say it is what it is. And sometimes that can be so annoying, but it is actually such a good piece of wisdom. Like sometimes this is what it is, and I'm going to have to cope and deal with this. I might not like it, but I'm going to do the best I can with it. And usually if we live our life backwards, there's a great book by Martha Beck. She's quite she's got some notoriety as a psychologist, and she wrote a book called Staring by Starlight. And she said, if you lived your life backwards and you saw all the times where there was something really bad that happened and you really wouldn't have wished for it, if you think about it, you'll find that that problem that you had led you to somebody who you really value, or a learning that you really value. There's something you got out of it. And that's not to say you would have chosen it, or that you would have pushed it or wished it on anyone or yourself, but just that there was something good that came out of it. So sometimes if we can take our challenges like that, like, I don't like it, but I'm sure there's something I'm going to learn. I'm going to become a better person getting over this problem, and maybe I'll be able to help somebody else in the end because of it. So cognitive strategies, I went on a bit of a tangent there. I'll get going. And then physical activity, of course, number one thing we can do for stress. And if you do incorporate some of that mind body stuff, so breathing or focusing on the breath, like Tai Chi or yoga, not yogurt, or just something that makes you smile and have fun. I think fun is such a great stress releaser. So if you're smiling doing some Zumba, or you're smiling doing some golf, or you're out fishing and moving your body, that's wonderful. I think focus on an activity that makes you smile. If you're on a treadmill and be like, I'm doing it, but I hate it, the doctor just said I had to, I don't think you're going to keep up with it very long. Yeah, so I'm going to segue into self-acceptance. It actually fits really well right here. I don't think we talk about self-acceptance enough in healthcare, and how it can either help us move forward or the opposite. If we're not feeling good about ourselves, how we can hold ourselves back. We can be our best cheerleaders or our worst enemies at any time in the day. And it can change from minute to minute or day to day. But self-acceptance is key. So starting to just like the person I am today and the skin that I have today. I always like to give the little cue that if you heard the words that you're thinking in your head come out of your favorite person's mouth, what advice would you give to them? Would you be really proud of what they're saying? Or would you maybe think, oh my gosh, no, you're wonderful. Why would you be so hard on yourself like that? So that can be really telling. And what that does is just create a bit of psychological distance. Because when we're in our brains, they're so powerful, and the illusion is very real, that everything that's going up there is very real, but we are making a lot of it up. So things in the past and things in the future that haven't happened, they're just film strips really that our brain is making up. And so if we can be a little bit more aware of it, and I find it's really helpful if I think of it that way. If I heard my daughter say the things out her mouth that I was saying in my head, am I proud of what she's saying? What advice would I give to her if I heard her saying those things? Sometimes small persons in our lives are so great because they're just like a mirror right up in front of you to show you things that are serving that you're doing and things that aren't serving. Yeah, so just becoming aware of our own habits. I just think we often overlook how important it is to motivate us and to keep us motivated if we really like ourselves. And that's what we do in our natural lives. When we like somebody, could be our small persons, could be our elders. When we like them, we want to take care of them. We want to take our very best care of them. So just like with ourselves, if I really like me, I want me to hang around and be doing the things I like for a lot longer. So I'm going to take a little better care of myself. It just makes it easier. I like an affirmation, could be a motto, a quote, an actual affirmation, anything that's meaningful to you that just doesn't feel silly is really, and you can Google this, affirmations, quotes, mantras, things that are motivating to you when you notice if your cycle is saying mean things to yourself, like, oh, I'm no good, I'm never going to be good at this, I'm not worthy. Whatever might be going on in that dialogue in your head, you can say one of your affirmations, like I am worthy and I'm important. I am kind, I'm a good friend. I value myself, those kinds of things. So sometimes it starts feeling a little silly for some people. You pick something that doesn't feel silly for you. So it could be strive for progress, not perfection. That might be the way in. One thing I will say about affirmations, though, is that it is okay if it doesn't feel 100% authentic in the moment. So I'm just going to give an example of when I used at a time I was in a really bad spot, and I started to just say, my body's amazing. And I didn't 100% believe it. So I wasn't feeling super amazing at that time. But what I did realize is like my heart keeps pumping and I don't have to think about it, thank goodness. And my lungs keep breathing me and I don't have to think about it. I can if I want to, and I can control it, but I don't have to. It just takes over. I'm lucky enough to have 2 kids in my life, and I think that whole process is amazing. When I start to put a phrase forward, my brain will give me the facts that back it up. So if I say, I'm amazing, my brain will be like, yeah, you are, this, and this. If I say, I'm not worthy, I'm no good, I'm never going to be good at this, the brain will be like, yeah, that's true too. So whatever you're thinking is super powerful. And we do really create a lot of our own reality, or a lot of how the world, how we approach the world is how the world approaches us, really. So yeah, just taking a minute to think about where our thoughts are, and knowing that it's super important how we're talking to ourselves and how we treat ourselves, and just finding a mantra, quote, an affirmation that's gonna just help us shift that. Sorry. I feel a tickle in my throat if I talk too long. Yeah, so really want to stop beating ourselves up. There's no point in it. It doesn't help us get where we want to go. If you wouldn't say it to your favorite person, don't say it to yourself. I think that's a good one. And we should be our favorite persons, but we're not. Sometimes it takes a lot of work to get there, for sure. So we do have a 2-hour class called Managing Anxiety and Stress. We've combined our former anxiety class and we had a stress class, and we just found there's so much overlap. And there was also some people would call anxiety and stress, they mixed up the terms. And so we've clarified that a little bit, but it's a 2-hour group. It's practical solutions. You can start using them right away. It's just more, though, using that stress response to help us meet our goals instead of getting in our way. And then Anxiety Calm is just a great 4-week class. So the classes are about 1.5 to 2 hours, and we just more of the skills and practice them. And the nice thing about having a 4-week class is you can practice them a little bit, we can come back and talk about it. I love, every group is a little bit unique. We talk about the same core material, but just the skills and the wisdom that each participant brings to the class makes it a little bit unique. And if somebody's, oh, I had some trouble with this, or I don't really like this, we can chat that out and talk it out. And there's so much wisdom in a class. And it's so nice to sometimes just be like, oh, you're feeling that too? I'm doing that same thing. I feel not so alone. That's one of my favorite things about the classes. We do recommend you take the class, Managing Anxiety and Stress, first, just to see if Anxiety Calm is a good fit and you're going to like the kind of things we talk about. But yeah, it's just, we don't make you, but I really do encourage it. And then heart math is so cool. It just uses heart rate variability. I think we think our heart's like a metronome, that it beats the same rhythm all the time, but there's actually tiny little variations between the heartbeats. And those little variations, now that we have such good sensors, we can measure those up to 1,000th of a second. And those small little variation actually means a lot for our health. So when we're young, our heart is continually adjusting, and that's really good. But when we get older, it gets a little bit, it's harder to adjust as quickly as with everything, isn't it? And we can actually plot those heart rate variabilities, and they may have a pattern that's very coherent, looks like a nice pattern, or they might be all over the place and incoherence. Anyway. And if we look at our heart rate variability and say we're 40 years old and our heart rate variability looks more like that of a 60-year-old, then we know that's an independent risk factor for both physical and mental health problems. So there's, in the heart math class, we talk about a few strategies that we can do. Really simple, practical, takes a minute, not very long at all. And in the heart math class, you actually do get hooked up to the sensor so you can see what your nervous system is doing in real time. So we might talk about something stressful. We can see our nervous system dip into the red, and then we'll do a breathing exercise and we'll see it recover. So you can see that some of the strategies that you're using have a real impact on your health, like right away. So you can see what's happening in real time. Yeah, so it's kind of cool. So the YouTube videos that pertain to stress are the Stressing Well. It's a shorter video. And then the heart math, there are 3 videos there to, of course, you don't get the sensor when you're watching it on YouTube, but you can get a better idea of what it is. So there's a heart-centered breathing, a little bit about coherence, and then renewing and depleting emotions. And we have 4 slice of happiness videos, which again, just some practical strategies you can try right now with a friend and see. And sometimes people are skeptical. They're like, these things are so simple. How could it possibly help me? I love a skeptic. I was also a skeptic. I love science. As a dietitian, we take a lot of science. And but I thought, these are so simple. Why don't I just try it and play both ends against the middle and try it for a little while with an open mind? And that's what I did. And I noticed it makes, over time, makes a huge difference in the way I think and the way I approach things. So a little reframing how we think. We've been reframing this whole time, actually. Just changing, sometimes just turning things on their head, or sometimes just noticing somebody else's problems in the world or helping somebody else with a problem can really reframe our own struggles. This one is more about weight and health, because I find a lot of people do obviously navigate themselves to me because of the weight and health issues. And so my whole goal in the world is to try to set people up with the best expectations so that they can stay engaged in their healthy behaviors for their lifetime. So I really don't want people to go on and off something. I just want them to create the healthiest version of themselves, whatever that might be. So the weight and health myth to help reset expectation is just if people are engaging in a set of healthy behaviors. So I mentioned those before, just the 4: healthy eating, active living, absence of sleep, absence of tobacco, and moderate or absence of alcohol. Don't know where that came from. They're engaging in those 4 healthy behaviors, then their number on the scale makes little difference to their health outcomes. So if they're engaging in healthy behaviors, their number on the scale makes little difference to their health outcomes. Why that's important for me is I think we spend too much time worrying about what that number on the scale does. And it's one of those things we actually can't control. Sometimes we can do all the right things, just like sleep, and that number goes up or down, and we don't really know why. What I find is, especially if that number goes up, people are like, well, why am I doing all this good stuff? I'm tossing it out the window. Sometimes if that number goes down, we'll sabotage ourselves with it too. Oh, that number went down, I'm going to Dairy Queen. That kind of idea. I just have found in my career and even in my personal life and with my patients and my friends and family, that number really hasn't done them a whole lot of good in motivating their health behaviors forward. So I like people just to look at their health behaviors. Maybe they're not very active right now. now and they start doing a 10-minute walk after dinner on Monday and Friday, and they stay engaged in that for months and months, that is going to make us healthier. We know that. Whether that number on the scale does whatever it does, it doesn't matter. We have enough research to say that any increase in exercise, it's dose responsive, it will make you healthier. We have enough research to say any increase in fruits and vegetable intake will make you healthier. So if you decide, I'm just going to eat one more serving of vegetables every day, then that's going to make you healthier, whether or not the scale does what you're hoping it will. Yeah, so I think that's that slide. All or nothing thinking. Humans are by nature such all or nothing thinkers, and we're either all in or all out. That's why the gyms are so busy in January, February, and then by April, May, they start to get quiet again. We just tend to want a 20-day fix or a quick fix, and we can do anything for a short time because we're amazing. But the trick is, can we stick with it? Can I keep this up? Is this a habit I want to maintain for my lifetime? So just keep that in mind when you're making changes. You don't have to make them all at once. Small changes that are meaningful, as things you do every day, make the most difference. And sometimes if we didn't reach a goal that we were trying to achieve, it's because we made that goal too big. So let's go back to the drawing board, make it a little smaller, break it down into small steps, get that first piece of the goal, feel really good about it. Then that'll be a catalyst for change. So healthy eating bits, the classes that the basics first. So I don't know if you're already sensing this about me. I'm a dietitian who doesn't really like very much rules or limits for people. I know from my own practice and from research that I've read that people have a great intuition about what feels good in their bodies and what's good for them. But a few things I like to, and there's always exceptions to every rule, but I do find that sometimes the things we do to try to help ourselves get in the way a little bit. So we're trying to cut back. So we start to, oh, well, I'm busy anyway, and I skip breakfast. So I like to give a rule of thumb or a guideline, I guess, instead of rule, is trying to eat within 2 hours of waking and trying not to go more than 4 to 6 hours without a meal or snack. I think so often we're eating light breakfast or no breakfast and skipping lunch or light lunch. And then we're so hungry when we come to supper, we overdo it. And I see that time and time again. My best piece of guidance is I want to feel better after I finish than before I started. So slow down, savor your food, pay attention to what you're eating. So the key is just balance there. Try to get 3 to 4 food groups at each meal and 1 to 2 at snacks. Super, super basic, not rocket science there. We do have some classes on the relationship to food and eating, which I think is a bigger, in my course of my career, I've shifted more from what to eat to why we eat the way we do. And I talk a little bit less about what to eat than I used to. And it's more that relationship to food and eating. And I find once that's repaired, we make so much better decisions and eat foods that make us feel really good and fuel the activity and stuff that we're doing. So weight management myths and truths is a lot of what, like that message about setting those good expectations. That's what it's a lot about, just trying to reshift our thinking about how that weight and health message is tied together, and we want to take them apart and look at those healthy behaviors. So it's a 2-hour class. It focuses on the myths and misconceptions of weight loss. And then if you like that, we do have a shedding the weight program, which is a 3-week. It's really practical. We use some cognitive skills as well, trying to shift around our thinking a little bit. And I do recommend the weight management myths and truths class first. So it's a 3-week, 2-hour each, well, an hour and a half to 2-hour each sessions. Ideally, we do some practical skills that you can practice in the week between and come back and we can talk about it and see how you did. I have some traditional nutrition classes as well. ABCs of digestion is more for people with IBS or IBS-like symptoms. So ABCs of digestion is AA for abdominal pain, bloating, constipation, diarrhea. Maybe not as much fun as it sounds like from ABCs. And then there's a blood pressure and cholesterol basics class and diabetes basics. So diabetes basics, BP and cholesterol basics, open to anybody, whether you've been diagnosed with those things or you have somebody in your life that's diagnosed, or there's no diagnosis and you're just, I don't want to have high blood pressure or diabetes, and I want to come learn a little bit more. You're more than welcome. So our nutrition classes on YouTube, the really basic one, Getting Started with Nutrition, it's a 1-hour video, super basic, just like what we were talking about. Mindful eating is one of my favorites, and we definitely talk about mindful eating in the Shedding the Weight program. And it's a 45-minute video and starting to get you to look at your relationship to food and eating. Starting to look at what are my thoughts and thinking around food. Are there some that I can let go? Are there some that aren't serving me? That dieting psychology, and trying to get back to making food fun and enjoyable again and not so much chore. Okay, switching gears. So that was everything on our healthy eating and relationship to food and eating classes. And then the last thing to talk about is active living and goal setting. So with our active living piece, just the little guidelines there are trying to work up to 30 minutes a day, most days adding up to 150 minutes a week. Lots of research to show that if we add some strength training in 2 to 3 days a week, huge health benefits. So activity, no matter what you do, like I said, is dose responsive. So up until the extremes, of course, but if you do a little bit more, you get a little bit more health benefits from it. There's no reason, please start where you're at and say, I'm going to do a 5-minute walk. I'm going to do a 10-minute walk. Doesn't matter. That's wonderful. That's way better than doing nothing at all. So I've had so many patients say, well, the doctor said I had to do half an hour. I don't want to do half an hour. So I'm just going to watch my show on the couch. So let's not do that. If you think a 10-minute walk is feasible, you don't have to go outside if you don't want to. Look at what might work for you. So pace yourself, work up to the guidelines, break it into small pieces. Like I'll just go for 10 minutes after breakfast and maybe a little scoot around the block after dinner. And if I feel good, maybe I'll do it twice. It can be really small. Small is better if we can maintain it. Because instead of saying I have to go to the gym for an hour, which means I gotta put on my shoes and put on all the clothes and get in my car and go somewhere, make it work for you, make it make sense in your life, because everybody's lives are busy. We got a lot of things going on all the time, and we just want you to move your bodies. Our bodies are meant to move. So if you have gardening and yard work and things that you do in your natural life that keep you moving, that's fantastic. Let's do that. Let's do more of that. Let's start there. Working on moderate intensity. So we want to get that heart rate up a little bit. We don't want to just be doing we should be breathing a little heavier. We should be feeling our heart rate get up a little bit. And the kinesiologist says, take a look at how much sedentary time you do have. I don't know if you do work like me, but I sit a lot in my day. It's actually surprising and scary. So I do take a look about how much sedentary time I have, and I really try to limit anything outside of work. In my work, I try to do my best to, I think this strategy is coming up next. But outside of work, if I have a show that I really want to watch, I will usually get on my elliptical and watch it at the same time, because I just know my hours of sedentary time are very high. But maybe you have a few shows you want to watch. That's okay. Maybe you have a pedal machine or something, or you get up in the middle, or something that works for you. So lots of ways to be active. Find something you like, though. If you like it and you're enjoying it and you do it, whether it has any health benefit or not, I think we're so much more likely to stick with it and has so much more benefits outside just that physical piece. Again, think back to what we talked about right from the start. What's in it for me? What do I want to do for 7 years more with the people I love? So just think about that. What motivates you? Typically with any goal setting, if we know when, where, what we're doing, when and where, if we're meeting somebody, that even helps us. But the more structured our plan is for activity, the better. That's why when people start doing a class and they do it often, and then people miss them if they're not there, they're way more likely to stick with it and go. But even if you're just doing a little walk around the block, if you have a neighbor that'll walk with you at 6 o'clock on Mondays and Fridays, you'll both help motivate each other. Someday your friend won't want to go, someday you won't want to go, and oh, come on, let's go. And you'll help each other along a little bit. So the one strategy that is my favorite and the kinesiologist's favorite is the 560 strategy. And I try to do it at work. I modify it a little bit to make it work for me. So what it means is for every 60 minutes we sit, we should get up for 5 minutes. I know for me in my workday, that's not always possible. I often have patients back to back to back, but I usually can work a minute in. So I usually can do a walk up the stairs or just a walk to the printer, something. And I find that I'm a little less sore during my day. I actually do feel a little bit clearer mentally when I get up and do that walk. So yeah, 560 rule could be 160 rule. It's just wherever you want to start it. It's surprising how it adds up in an 8-hour workday. If you did actually get 5 minutes, and that's 40 minutes of activity right there, you did your 30 minutes for the day. Yeah, so fit small bouts of activity into your day, take the stairs, walk, park your car farther away, that kind of stuff. We do have a health basics class. The kinesiologist and I normally teach that together. It's an 1.5 to 2 hours. It's for 4 weeks. Every week we do a mindset challenge, we do a nutrition challenge, and we actually do work out together. So that's why the video is up there for you, so you can see what that's like. 3 levels of intensity. You choose your level of intensity. If today's just been a really bad day and maybe you got a little bit more pain than usual and you just want to sit your way through it, there's no pressure there. We do have lots of participants who started at one level and they do some exercises at different intensities and some at lower intensities, and it's 100% okay. One is not better than the other. Yeah, just small manageable changes. I like when that we meet, because we can talk about what went well or what didn't go well and what can we do different, and who has some wisdom to offer us to help us along with the challenges we're having. And then we do have a walking group at Cross Iron Mills Mall on Tuesday mornings. So you can walk at the mall any day. I think it opens at 6. And we do have a lot of people who come to the walking group who also walk on other days of the week. So that's really nice through the winter or when the weather's a bit precarious. But our kinesiologist is there on Tuesdays at 8:30. And they usually walk for about an hour. Some people stay longer. Some people go for coffee. There's a really nice group of people. You walk at your own pace. The mall is great for having some chairs every so often, so you can have a seat if it's too much. The kinesiologist is there to answer your questions. Every month they have a draw for a little gift certificate incentive to keep people coming. So just like all our programs, 587-287-1727 is the number to call. That's the main line here. Prescription to get active is really cool too. So you can request this through your medical home or doctor's office. And it's just a prescription to get active, just like it says. Your doctor or somebody in your medical home can write one out for you, and you can go to the website and see what is offered in Airdrie at this time. Currently, there's Good Life and Genesis. There are other things that come and go on there, so please have a look. And both Good Life and Genesis give a month of a free pass to try everything in their facilities. So you can see if you did have a pass, would it be useful to you? Do you like what's there? Yeah, just it's a nice way to get you started without any cost to you. So yeah, and then you would see on the prescription that website, and you can go there and check it out. As I promised, goal setting is the last thing to talk about. I won't go in it too much, but I do find, as we talked about the when and the where and the what, if you kind of nail that down, and if you write it down on paper, I feel like there's a little bit of magic that happens, a little bit of an accountability promise to yourself. And it helps keep us motivated and just moving in a positive direction. We can always come back and reflect on it. We do have like a 10-minute video on YouTube about goal setting. So again, I won't go into any detail. We use SMART goals here. So the acronym SMART, which is specific, measurable, achievable, realistic or rewarding, and timely, has a time frame attached. But yeah, you can take a peek at that video and see if that would be helpful to you. I do find that a lot of people will just keep gathering information. So they're still hitting themselves with the should stick. I should do this. I'm going to go to this class, but we're just not getting any traction under our wheels. And goal setting can be that difference for a lot of people. Just writing it down on paper, telling it to somebody, having a partner that's like, I'm going to do this. Will you do it with me? Can be really helpful to keep us on track. Yeah, and this class doesn't quite fit with all the other ones we have. We just found there was a bit of a need. There is a lot of grief programs that go on, but sometimes between the programs, there's not much happening. And sometimes people need things right now. So definitely it's just a 2-hour class. So it's not going to solve problems with grief. Grief is like a mountain climb. But it can give people just a chance to talk. We have some strategies in that class that can be helpful. And usually my main goal is just to try to connect people with the programs that will be coming up, either right here in Airdrie or across the province. We do have a lot of virtual ones going on. So yeah, that's kind of the main goal there, but I don't want to just leave you with nothing until you get to the class. So we leave you with a few strategies and opportunity to connect with people until the class opens up. That's the idea behind the Grief Bites class. Yeah, so next steps, if you're interested in our classes or anything we have to offer, a lot of resources are on our website. So that's www.hpcn.ca, or I mentioned our mainline number is 587-287-1727. And if you have any questions, our reception there can answer so many of your questions and help you out. Or just a little disclaimer, we will likely cancel any classes with less than 4 participants. So just let you know, we will let you know. As long as we have a contact number on file, we absolutely will let you know. We try to encourage people to not sign up unless they're absolutely certain they can attend. We do have a pretty high no-show rate. And that can be sometimes disappointing when you're trying to, from a planning perspective. So try to, if you don't sign up unless you're pretty sure you can go, and if you have to cancel at the last minute, let us know. That would be so kind of you. You can call anytime to register for a class, and if you can, it's the same number where you call to get information. Yeah, so thanks for hanging out with me. We do have a Facebook page and Instagram page. We also do have a Twitter, but we haven't been using it very much. We'll see. Definitely our website is probably the best place for information, hpcn.ca. If you are already connected in with your medical home, feel free to ask them any questions. So our nurse and social worker embedded in your medical home are great people to ask. Yeah, otherwise give us a call at 587-287-1727. And I think that's everything for today. Thanks for hanging out with me. I hope I'll see you in some of our classes in person. It's been really nice getting back in person again. Yeah, so I'm Kathy, dietitian, and take good care till I see you again. Okay, bye.